the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of Guidance.
Assalamu alaikum, Pir Shabda.
Assalamu alaikum, shalom aleichem, greetings and salutations, all of our family viewing this video presentation.
Welcome, everybody. This is a special program we have with live interview between me and Pir Shabda, as well as film footage that we've taken around the world, especially in Colombia. This is a special day for the International Week of Peace. And Pir Shabda, for those of you that don't know him, he's spiritual head of the Sufi Ruhaniyat, which is the lineage of Murshid Samuel Lewis. And that's also in the lineage of his teacher, Hazrat Inayat Khan. Shabda is a constant speaker at interfaith events, and he teaches all over the world Sufi practices, especially the dances of universal peace, which is what we're going to focus on today with some amazing footage that you will see as he teaches down in Colombia.
Yeah, thank you, Amartat. Amartat and I have been brothers on the path for 54 years. Especially want to greet all of our viewers. How fortunate that we have the heart of loving kindness and compassion to bring as much awareness to the problems of the day. Certainly, it's a time of paradigm shift. We know it's very, very difficult to shift a paradigm, and it will go back and forth and back and forth. And this way of getting together now on Zoom is a gift that's been given to us, and thank you to Ben Bowler and his entire crew for making it possible for us to be together and to try to share heart and approaches to life and approach to the problem of the day. We live in such a difficult time, and I would imagine that at any point in history in the last 5,000 years, if you sat and we were having this conversation, there would be something similar said. Certainly there were more golden times and more darker times, and right now we're in a time of a lot of separation and anxiety and fear and hatred.
You know, Pir Shabda and I, we knew each other when you were not a peer. You were just one of the people. I
We were
think
20 something, yeah, 21, 22, yeah.
Didn't we meet at the Sufi camp with Pir Vilayat in the mountains of Colorado?
Summer of 1969. It was actually June, I think, May or June of 1969 we did, yeah.
And then you actually came out to California after that and stayed in my house. And how did you meet Murshid Sam?
Like many of you viewers, there was a certain point in my life where my heart caught fire, caught the devotion of living a life to wake up. And that happened to me, luckily, at a young age. I became a student of Baba Ram Dass. I thought I'd live with Ram Dass till I was enlightened. But I was pretty naive, still naive. We got in a Volkswagen bus. We bought a Volkswagen bus, a hippie shrine, and drove cross country to Murshid's door, and then never left. So I've been here in this Bay Area where he started the work that I'm involved in from 1969, fall of 1969 till now.
Let's now take a look at some of the beginning of how the dances got started.
Yeah, and Amartat, one thing to put it in focus, Amartat is a filmmaker, and made a beautiful film in 1969, 70, 71 called Sunseed, which captured that moment in history where there was a spiritual influx into America and spiritual leaders from around the world had come together. And so
Just one thing, it was Sam who inspired that to me. I was sitting in a meeting. He said, people are going to film me. And I said inside, no, I'm not going to let the media film him. We need to make a movie that's come from the heart.
right, so now it's 50 years later, and Amritat has the inspiration to make Sunflower. In other words, what happened to the seeds after these 50 years? And so, in as part of that, I invited Amritat to bring a film crew down to Colombia, South America, in the mountains, about 4 hours out of Cali, at a eco village called Atlantida, where every April 200 of us gather with beautiful young people who are interested in loving kindness and compassion and awakening, and especially through these dances of universal peace. So what we're going to view is at that place. Historically, June 24th, 1968 was the first day that Murshid Sam brought these dances into a reality. So my teacher, Murshid Samuel Lewis, who was an extraordinary mystic, not only a Sufi teacher, but had spent 50 years in Zen, had a Hindu master, Swami Ram Das, so he learned the mysteries through the Indian path and learned the Kabbalah, the Christian mysteries, also was a soil scientist. In 1968, he said that he kept having a vision of people holding hands, chanting the names of God. And he said it was almost like watching a movie. He'd see what they were doing, then he'd wake up, but when he'd go back to sleep, the movie would it would begin just where it left off. And so he came to the group and he said, let's try this. And, a group of 10, 15 people held hands, and then he gave the directions of what he was seeing in the inner world, chanting, holding hands.
Everybody up, everybody up. Face your partner. Take your hands to your partner.
And he told us these dances are a gift for the world. They're going to go far and wide. They would spread around the world. So here we are in Colombia, 50 some years later, and we have close to 200 people here singing and dancing. For those of you who have seen the movie Sunseed that Amritat made, Murshid was leading this dance. So it's in a waltz time, and it takes the words, As-salam alaikum. May the peace of God be with you. Very simple. It goes like this. As-salam alaikum. We sing 3 times like that. Come on. As-salam alaikum. As-salam alaikum. As-salam alaikum. Then we recite, La ilaha Allah.
Murshid, he was very, very precise about how we had to do different things. And so when as a teacher, you have to show people that. And we'll see in a moment how precise he was. What is the process now of you teaching new teachers to lead these dances? What is that like?
There's so many ways of learning. So how did I learn to lead dances? By getting in the breath of my teacher. He didn't say, this is the way to give the direction. This is the way to give the direction. I would watch him. I would practice it myself, see what worked, kind try not to talk too long, let the dance have its way, communicate the depth of what's arising. So I hope that the people who are learning from me learn by getting into my breath. I'm getting into my teacher's breath, and so on.
Face your partner. Know which way you're advancing.
One's facing this way, two's facing that way.
3 times clockwise. Turn and advance. Assalamu alaikum. Hold on, stop. Stop. We go, Assalamu alaikum. You know, we get to bow to each other. So don't forget the bow.
Now somebody is not progressing. You should already know when you're in that position where you're going to be next. You go in the direction you're moving, just facing. All right, now hold hands again. Assalamu
Dances of universal peace are a byproduct of Gaia. Gaia created the dances of universal peace. The context gave birth to the dances of peace as a practice, and they were born inside a Sufi womb because it was a good channel to manifest them, but they belong to the world. What do the dances of peace, how do they contribute to this planetary evolution? Well, first of all, they tell us all religions, all mystical paths have a good medicine for you. Doesn't matter where are you born, what is your culture, your heritage. You can claim your heritage from the Buddhist tradition, from the Zoroastrian tradition, from the Christian, the Muslim, the Jewish. So you go to a dance of peace session and you just drink from all these different rivers. You end up drinking different types of wine, and then you start to create a universal understanding of spirituality, a planetary understanding of the human journey of evolution.
What touches my heart and what brings these very intense feelings while dancing is being able to experience unity, because you cannot do this by yourself. You have to do this holding hands with people. And every time you hold hands, there's like a revelation, and every time is different.
We've just heard from two of the dance teachers that you've trained, your disciples, and especially we're going to hear a lot from Jorge, who is the first gentleman to speak there.
A Sufi named Arjun, Jorge Calero. He runs a eco village, like I said, in Colombia called Atlantida. As you can see, he's brilliant and eloquent, and can speak what it is that is evolving and we're feeling in such a beautiful way. And I think what both of the speakers pointed to is the problem of our current human condition. And it would be simple to say this is a finger, but now if the finger just went on a journey and said, I'm completely separate, I'm separate from everything else, I'm my own thing, and so I'm not going to relate to my hand and my arm and it's everything that I'm attached to. As a human being, our current experience is separate, is separation. When in reality, like the finger, it's not even interdependent because we're part of one. There's only one. And that experience is available for human beings to move from separation to unity. It's possible for us to experience this sheer joy and ecstasy. we can see that we've been separated by religion, by race, by wealth, by nationality, but even just for life on this planet, it's one. We're interdependent. We're one. We're all humanity is one. We're one with all of nature, with earth, water, fire, air, ether. It's all part of one being. So now these dances of universal take birth in the eloquent way that Jorge spoke, that it was time for them to come to humanity, and they came through our Sufi lineage. Very good. They could have, if they didn't come through our lineage, they would have come in another way. So maybe we are the caretakers of them, but they're the gift for the world. And right away, the first thing you do is you're holding hands. Now you're forming an organic shape, a mandala. You know, it's like when you look at synchronized swimming at the Olympics, it's like that everything moving together. When you hold hands, when you move together, when you sing together, there's embodiment, there's sympathy. And then now we're chanting these sacred phrases from the world's religious traditions or spiritual traditions. And this is something that's a little bit lost in the Western world. The principle of mantra yoga, that sounds can be uttered by a human being, and those sounds with devotion can transform your consciousness. It's a super gift to humanity. You don't have to be smart, you don't have to be like a PhD, but you need some devotion and practice. And certainly we can recite mantra yoga on our own, in our own way, in our own homes and so on. But now we're holding hands and we're calling on these sacred phrases, not just from Sanskrit, not just from Hebrew, not just from Arabic, but from all the world's traditions. And so we automatically feel the unity of religious ideals and of human ideals. And they're such a great gift. And I feel them now, 50 years in or 50 some years in, not only as a revelation, but really like a revolution to really change consciousness. And when we started, there was 10, 15 people in the room. Before my teacher died in 1971, he said, even though we were just a little teeny group in San Francisco Bay Area, he said, these are going to go around the world. And so 50 years later, we look back and we say, whoa, he said that. And now they have gone around the world, really around the world. There, I think in 45, 50 countries, there's dance circles. And really, maybe we're just at the beginning of the effect of this great practice. Maybe 50 years later, it will be a well-known practice that people do together. Why not sing and dance and have a good time? Who said that spirituality or religion has to be, sad or difficult? Why can't it be joyful? Now I've been in this work for 50 years. I started when I was in my 20s, so I'm in my middle 70s. I'm not necessarily the person who's going to attract young people too much. It happens. I'm very happy. I feel delighted but Jorge's so much more suited because he's in his 40s. So he's the one generation ahead of the people in their 20s and 30s, and so well suited.
Well, rather than talk more, let's go back to the camp in Colombia, where it was not just the dances. I mean, it was a full program on developing yourself. There was meditation, there were healing circles, there were a lot of indigenous actual teachings that were going on there. And of course, it was in an eco village, which is actually a living example of perhaps a way that we can live in the future with taking better care of our resources and minimizing our needs for material things. But let's just go to the camp so you can see it.
We are in South America. Young people have come here, this beautiful eco village, Atlantida. South America has an inner tradition of mysticism called, shamanism, where There's a great sense of breathing with the inner life and with nature that's almost built into the genetic structure of someone born here. It's such a joy to come here, to celebrate, to sing, to dance, to share the lessons that I've received, that we've received.
I feel joy. I feel happiness to be connected with others when we can glance into each other's eyes. And as I usually tell them, and you let yourself be seen without feeling guilt of being who you are. That is total medicine for me.
It seemed like I had been waiting for this for a long time. And when we started doing the dances, when I started training also to lead the dances, I came to know that this was something very important in my spiritual life, because the Sufi practices were beautiful, and knowing about all these things was very inspiring for me. But at the same time, I felt the dances were so inclusive. You don't have to have a religion or have one in whichever way. You can sing basically in any language, in any sacred words that you choose from any tradition. Very beautiful to understand that we're all saying the same in different ways.
The particular dance we were watching comes from Sanskrit and the beautiful tradition in India of being Lord Shiva, the master of sound. Through the rhythm of his being, life manifests. And at the same time, in India, Shiva refers to the all-pervading reality, to the essence of all, beyond name and form. And this is something difficult for our Western culture, in our monotheistic view, that the two can't go together. But the dance is calling out the sound of the damaru, the drum that Lord Shiva is playing to manifest life. Boom, 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 Mahadeva, one of Lord Shiva's name, great God, Mahadeva. Hara, 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 Sada Shiva, God, immortal Shiva. So it's very spirited and so joyful, and we're dancing life into being as we sing these sacred words.
When I was doing the Sufi dances with Murshid Sam back in the day, I never could have imagined the evolution that's happened in the dances since then. People have taken their own creativity, their own language, their own culture, and transformed it into something personal and universal. How did they turn from Sufi dances into now the dances of universal peace in terms of the concept?
So for us, Sufi is completely universal. Sufi is the awakened heart. But so many people associate a word like Sufi with a vehicle rather than the destination. So,
And also associated with Islam specifically.
yeah, so if you imagine all the world's religions as vehicles, and now you get in your vehicle and you drive somewheres, but when you get to the destination, you don't stay in the car. You get out. You're in a universal sphere. So for us, Sufi means universal. It's that awakened heart. It's not the incense. It's the fragrance that comes when it gives itself up. So that's what Sufi means. But if you hear Sufi dancing, for some people they will think, oh, it's Islamic mystical dancing. So if you know the true meaning of the word Islam, that's correct. But outwardly, that's not the case. So there was a time in when Murshid was speaking about Sufi dancing where he used the phrase dances of universal peace. And so for better or worse, we felt there was a wisdom in changing the name of what we were doing from Sufi dancing to dances of universal peace, because that way too, this form, it shouldn't be restricted to people who are in our, quote, Sufi community or Sufi lineage practice. It's for the world. Well, you could be a rabbi, or you could be a Zen priest, and so on and so forth. Or as someone said in the movie, you could be a musician. You don't have to follow a particular religion to be spiritual. So we wanted to make them universal, and we changed the name to Dances of Universal Peace.
We have all the different names of God and concepts that go into many different world religions. We have a lot of interfaith meetings happening around the world today, and the word they like to use is creating harmony. They don't want to create unity because they want to keep their own traditions intact, but at the same time open up to the rest of the traditions. It seems like the dances of universal peace have taken a step beyond isms, and it doesn't seem to matter which ism you're a part of, because you do experience something in unity just by calling on the different names of God or phrases from all the different religions and cultures.
Beautiful. Yeah, and I think one of the catchphrase way to speak about it, we can use the word unity. We don't want to use the word uniformity, or we don't want to become uniform. Mathematically, if there's one, there's no two. So that means there's no two things, there's no duplication. Everything is unique, and that's why it's unity, not uniformity would suggest there's duplication. With great good fortune, we do get to sing and dance, and you wonder why it's such a secret. Why have such a good time? Imagine the governments of the world would start their meetings by holding hands and making a common invocation, that they had a common purpose and held to that. And why not? Maybe it will happen that way.
I'm glad you bring up the government word, because let's talk now about some of the serious issues that we, humanity, faces today in our world.
Yeah, one should ask, how does the spiritual life serve the problem of the day, or the problems of the day? And the whole idea that my well-being is being disturbed by you, by the devil, there's some devil outside now, and if I can get angry and hate that devil and do something about that devil, my life will be better. And now there's the confusion that of race. I mean, how absurd. Of gender. I mean, we're in this period of history where it's not even fair to say equality of women. To allow women to take their rightful place in the harmony of the evolution of all being, and for us to receive the wisdom and guidance of the voice the voice which comes from within through the feminine. So it's a wonderful time and a difficult time, and certainly even in the last 100 years, we've come a long way. There's so much more ground to go over. Loving kindness and compassion, in a very profound way, may be at the heart of the solution to all of our problems. Naturally, we have to act, but when we act with loving kindness and compassion, when we act with a sense of unity, of a sense of being one body, we will be able to change this world, or change ourselves, and make this place a more harmonious and more beautiful place to be.
If we look at the problems that the world has faced, more or less they've been caused by destructive emotions, by greed, anger, jealousy, self-loathing, hatred. We're living in a time where our actions as human beings have created a great chasm of separation by race, by religion. We're all made out of the same earth, water, fire, air. If you look clearly, it's absurd.
The world we live in now is very painful to witness. Humanity is now in an peak moment of evolution. Change, evolve, or perish. We created this scenario in which whether we change or we die, whether we evolve or we collapse as a civilization. We created this.
And now we're in a difficult period where, by our actions as human beings, our planet is in our existence on the planet is being threatened. And it is a moment where, by our actions, humanity can fail, or we can go on. It's pretty much that simple. The planet will be fine in the long run. It can heal herself. She can heal herself, but our place on it depends on our actions right now.
Global warming, we have to think as a planet, as a humanity. We start to think about ourselves in terms of one human family, not in terms of nations or religions. We are just a little piece of Mother Earth. We love this idea that we need to do something to solve the problem and that we need to save the Earth. Well, let me tell you, the Earth doesn't need to be saved. We are not that powerful. We didn't create life. Life in planet Earth has been wiped out 5 times before, and it has started again from little things, little bacteria. Last time was the dinosaurs. It got wiped out, everything died, and only little rats survived. And from those little rats, the first mammals ever existed. Now we have mammals that fly, mammals that swim, big mammals, small mammals, mammals that eat other mammals. So it's so arrogant to think that we need to save Mother Earth.
You know, from a point of view of climate and our existence, I think I feel we have to begin by making a relationship with the natural world, that feeling ourselves as the natural world. From the deepest sense, it's all one body. We've already seen that. But from where we're sitting today, okay, now have that kind of respect and sense that there's communion and community and communication with the living world. And so now the way we treat the living world becomes like one of our companions. Just like if I was walking with you, I would care for you. And so now I want to care for the living world.
Here, Shabda, you mentioned that I made this movie called Sunseed, and then it became Sunseed, The Journey, as we re-edited it and brought it out another time a few years ago. And now we're working to make this movie Sunflower, to show what did it mean to have a spiritual life, to follow a practice, to have a teacher. What did people bring into the world because they took this path and this concentration in life. And Pir Shubda, you are a sunflower. You're a great example of what you can do with your life. You're totally dedicated to everything you do. You've taken on the lineage that started from Hazrat Inayat Khan, and you didn't take it on, you were appointed that. But I think there's a tremendous thing that we have to talk about, which is the next generation. Even after the sunflowers, then there's what? I call them the sun sprouts. You were giving the thing of nature. So what's happening to our youth? And I think we can see some footage where we talk about that, and then let's discuss what we can do for the next generations.
Talking about the youth is a very delicate issue. Those who are young now, they are the first generation that has been listening since they were infants that maybe this world has no hope. Our daughters and sons, they grew up with this crazy complexity of crisis, because the crisis we're facing now is environmental, social, political, economic, is massive. And the amount of suicidal episodes in the youth is just so painful. The things that happens in the United States with these young kids go with machine guns and start, they're really carrying so much anxiety, so much despair in their hearts. Our young people have this tremendous challenge of learning how to overcome that anxiety, learning how to be strong, to stand up and still find reasons to be alive.
Yeah, what Arjun spoke was very eloquent. I guess the first thing to young adults now in their 20s, 30s, and 40s is have children. Be brave to have children. And it's such an act of generosity to bring someone the opportunity for a human life and then to provide them with a nurturing environment. I know my own parents were German, Jewish refugees of Nazi Germany, and so my father didn't want to bring children into this world. It was thanks to my mom who said, no, let's do it. And so that it was that grace that brought me in. And I know that I remember when Samuel Lewis, Murshid Sam, was still alive, he said to us, I said, you all think you're something? Wait till you see your kids. And he says, you think they'll be something? Wait till you see their kids. And so when you have generation upon generation of beings who have been nurtured to be kind and considerate and universal, it has a great effect on the planet. And, you know, how do you want to save the planet? Have kids and raise them beautifully, without doubt. So in that way, the spiritual life has a great deal to offer our humanity through the nurturing of children. Let's change the pedagogy of teaching in our public schools. Why shouldn't people learn to watch their breath? To have a program that develops kindness and consideration, tolerance and forgiveness and strength and courage. Why shouldn't we be teaching those things? Why? It's very simple to teach meditation in the schools, and I shouldn't say it isn't happening. It's already happening, but only in a very teeny tiny way. But maybe in 10, 20 years, it'll be common.
One of the most beautiful things about the dances of universal peace is that they seem to be very attractive to the younger generation. And as you say, that the teaching of meditation and breath and all these other what we call spiritual practices can go forward into the next generation.
I never cared whether my children became card carriers, so to say, Sufi card carriers, but They can't get away from universality. That's in their nature. So they grew up at our Sufi retreats, doing the dances as little children, being in community. They already know the universality of religious ideals. It's in their blood. And so everything they do, I feel, has that sense of nurturing community. It doesn't have to be in the spiritual path that I've taken. Go out and serve humanity in the way that's appropriate for you. But I do feel that we as teachers, as parents, as school teachers, and we should, boy, do we need to honor those people who teach our children in school. That's where the opportunity is to teach kindness. We're not teaching Christianity or Judaism. We're teaching kindness, strength, courage, tolerance, forgiveness, patience, being in tune with the infinite. All those things can be trained without a religious, so that we don't have to be transcendental meditators and we don't have to be Sufis, but we can be loving kindness beings.
And in a way, I feel they have a great advantage, this generation, because they see in an instant on their phone all the traditions. Some of the deepest teachings that were kept secret for centuries are now available to them immediately. And so in a way, if you look at it as an evolutionary process, like an athlete, the athletes today, they run so much faster than the ones before because of lots of reasons, training and practice and so forth. Perhaps these next generations will be so already starting from a spiritual point of view, but maybe not labeled, as you said, anything, may actually develop some skills and some techniques and some practical, bringing it back into the world, into the governments of the world who sit and the wealthy people of the world who make a lot of the decisions for us. Maybe this next generation can actually reach out to them in a way that maybe our generation hasn't been able to.
That's my hope. That's my feeling, that a new age is possible. It's an amazing time to be born into the world now. How can I bring more loving kindness and more joy into this moment? So let's attend to that. Train our children to see the world that way. How can I serve this world? That obviously, if my neighborhood gets happier, I'll be happier. It'll be a nicer neighborhood to live in.
I see the spiritual path as helping human beings, not, in the long run, we want them to really awaken to their true nature, to be fully awakened. On the way, we gradually become less selfish. We become more kind, more considerate, and look past our own needs, because I know in the long run, we're interdependent. So my happiness based on your happiness.
Something has happened to my life that lets me, where I permit myself to accept myself in all my dimensions without judgment, and therefore I can relate in that way with others too. And for me, that is peace.
I feel that living a spiritual life is living a complete life. Until you find something that relates to that and which gets you near to it, I think life is pretty much empty.
I see this spiritual path, and not just our spiritual path, it's blooming all over the world, as a great benefit to solving all of the world's problems, environmental, political, gender, race, income inequality, sharing the resources of the world, using less, being conscious of what it is that our place is, what our purpose is.
Well, thank you, Pir Shabda. You are such an inspiration to so many people around the world. You don't even know it most of the time. Probably you're out doing bird photography, and you're probably taking a picture of a bird who speaks to the other birds. Who knows? but certainly people and all the dances, that are spreading around the world. You've had a tremendous amount to do with that in terms of organization, in terms of teaching teachers, and you're a true sunflower. As I like to come back to my movie that's in production, and honestly, this is an appeal to the people watching this to please go to our website. You can see all of these great interviews I've done with Shabda, and we did one with Shabda and Mirabai Starr and many other great voices of today. But what I'm really asking actually is that if you can go to our website, there's a place to donate to keep these free webcasts going, but more specifically to see this, what I think will be a great movie, Sunflower, where we're presenting many of the people who had teachers like Shabda, what they've done in the world, and then showing some people who are, let's say, the current sun seeds will be the future sunflowers. There's so many great people working on the environment and on creating communities like Arjun or Jorge is doing in South America. There's so much that the general public just doesn't have access to, or they have access to it, but they choose not to. And when I can get this movie Sunflower out into the world, I think we have a chance of really touching many more people than we can just by social media and podcasts and webcasts. So please go to sunseedstudio.org, subscribe, donate $10, whatever, and help us get this movie Sunflower to blossom. And now let's hear a little bit about a vision for the future.
This precious message, somehow it came from India to California. Now California, now it's spread all over Europe and Asia, and now it's spread to South America.
Sufism came from India to Europe and United States. But now, when these seeds from the East came to the West, they grew, they fermented, they enrich, because also, Latin America has its own medicine. And now it's like the arrow is going from the West to the East to complete the circle. And discovering that message that came out from the East is now needed back in the East after being enriched in the West. And the new generations in the East are just so ready to receive this renewed message of universality, this renewed message of peace that now has this planetary flavor because it went all around the world and now is uniting all the peoples in one single tapestry.
When we were in the 60s, it was like India is becoming into the West, like the teachings of the East. If you've seen Sunseed, you'll see at the end of the film, one of the teachers is speaking about how it's going to happen whether we want it to or not, that that East will become West and West will become East. But now it's the next chapter where East and West are becoming together with a new consciousness.
What a rich time, what a rich time. And now I can communicate through WhatsApp with everybody on the screen, and in a moment we can be together on this planet. One thing that you may have got the impression from what was said in the movie, that Sufism came from India. Sufi is said to have been present from the beginning of time with no founder and no location. Our particular lineage of Sufi came from India. So I just wanted to put that explanation there, that there's many, many, many millions of Sufis that have many different roots and different places it came from. It's so special how a seed gets planted, it grows in a new climate, it develops new qualities, and then the wind takes it back to another place and it gets planted there, and then it creates new qualities and evolves. And You know, evolution is complexity. It gets more and more complex with more and more refinement. You know, we went from 1 cell to 2 cells to 4 to 8 and so on. So it's a wonderful time in history. It's a very, very difficult time in history. But now we're so aware of what's happening all over the globe. We feel the pain and suffering of people in Iran, the women of Iran. We feel what's going on in Afghanistan. Now we know the floods that just happened in Libya, the earthquake in Morocco, the heat wave here, the flooding here. So we're in tune with the suffering of the world, and we have this opportunity to help people awaken to their true nature and to practice loving kindness. But when we realize that we're connected to all of humanity, to all of everything living in all realms.
There is no distance between how horrible and how scary and how difficult the darkest hour of the night is, and how amazing the sunrise is gonna be. They come together. So we're facing now an amazing moment to be alive. I wouldn't change it for anything. Of something really important, something really magical, something that is even beyond our capacity to understand right now. That's how fantastic it is. Something is being born from within of reality. Something is being born, not only in the human heart, not only in the human consciousness, is being born in the reality itself.
Sometimes it seems so difficult to have hope when we think of everything going on in the world, and to have peace, which is what this program is really about, inner peace leading to peace in the world. But if we don't have, I think Pir Shabda, you can talk about you probably remember the quote of Hazrat Inayat Khan about optimism and pessimism.
I do. I do. I was thinking the same thing, Amritat. So Inayat says, the optimist takes the chance of losing, and the pessimist loses the chance of winning. So look at it another way. If you would all indulge me and enter into your breath and feel your breath coming in through the nostrils and going out through the nostrils. Just try to get your breath like a natural swing and let it swing in and swing out. Go ahead, go right ahead. Okay, and now I'm going to ask you to continue the practice and feel pessimistic and see if it changes the rhythm of your breath. Feel pessimistic. This is not going to work. So, naturally, the first thing that happens is you breathe out and you get stuck on the out breath. So you have no vitality, you have no strength anymore to even deal with the situation that's arisen by the nature of your attitude of, oh no, this is over, this is no good, I'm pessimistic, it's not going to work out. I'm not talking about realism. Knowing what the facts are, but I'm talking about your attitude about how to approach life. Okay, let's try now, go back to the rhythm of your breath. Again, like a swing, swing it in, swing it out. Okay, and I invite you, no matter how difficult things are arising, I feel optimistic. I'm going to keep my optimistic heart on. And what happens to your breath? You can feel the breath becomes rich, more strength on the in-breath, more relaxation on the out-breath. So it's a great secret that to see that it does work out. And if you look at the curve of life, right, it's like this. It goes up and down. That's true for all of us. So here's the pessimist. Oh, nothing ever works out. Nothing ever works out. Here's the optimist. Oh, it worked out again. Oh, it's amazing how life works out. It's the same curve, but your joy that you find from life, that you get off the bus, so to say, at those moments of success rather than failure. So that's another way to look at, the optimist takes the chance of losing and the pessimist loses the chance of winning strategically. Whether you fail or you succeed, you're still better off having an optimistic attitude. But more than that, for me personally, my experience teaches me that the essence of my being, essence of your being, is the essence of all, which is all pervading, the essence of joy, the essence of ecstasy, the essence of peace, the essence of wisdom, and so on. And that we're on the path of realizing that, and gradually we all become the Buddha. We all become the awakened being. We don't know how much cycling this will take, but I have that sense that, yes, in the long run, it'll work. Short run, a lot of difficulties.
Thank you, my dear brother and friend, Pir Shabda. It's been a great moment spent with you. And we're going to end with some dances, of course, as we, to get us uplifted wherever we're at. And to my audience, please do go to sunseedstudio.org. Subscribe. We have a lot of great surprises coming, even for me. I'm sure, like, this whole discussion was a big surprise. We didn't know where we were going to go or end up, but it's been beautiful, and so grateful to you, Shabda, Pir Shabda. And we're going to see a dance now, Shalom Aleichem, a Jewish dance.